everybody, it's me, it's Molly, the creator of MakeItAsADogTrainer.com and the creator of this group. Thanks for joining me for another Facebook Live. So as always, I'm going to wait a few seconds and let some people join in, those of you guys who are watching live. I'm going to make sure everything's working. So I hope you guys are all having a great first day of the year. And I actually woke up this morning kind of sore and a sore throat and kind of achy. So we'll see how my energy keeps up tonight. I'm not really feeling that great. So if I'm less animated than usual, that's why. And yeah, so hopefully everything will be cool in a little while. But I do have some good news. I actually got, finally, after a very long shipping delay, like every other thing that everybody is getting shipped to them lately, I got a new toy, which actually somebody told me to get because I was talking to this someone I'm coaching, and he was taking notes during our coaching call on a tablet. And he was like, I love this thing. This is my Remarkable. And it's like a digital writing tablet. And I'm just such a geek because I love office supplies. And I don't really care too much about electronics in general, but I love writing. And I have like notebooks everywhere. And the kids steal them and write on the back of my pages and rip things out. And then I lose stuff. So now I will never lose a note again. And I love it. So I had to show you guys. So I hope you are all doing well. I'm going to turn on the little thingy so I can see your comments or see who is commenting. So let me just refresh my thing without accidentally canceling everything. And you guys who are here live with me, let me know who you are, where you're joining from, if you are a new trainer, since this is kind of primarily for you guys, but most of all that you can hear me fine. And everything's good. And we have some great things to cover tonight that will help you guys. Okay, so first of all, there's been a ton of people who have requested to join this group lately. And I ask questions on the thing when you request to join this group about whether or not you're just starting out, if you have your own business already, if you're thinking of starting one. And for the last month or so, I'm going to say probably about 80% of the people, new members in this group, are new to their own businesses. They're just starting their dog training business, or you're thinking of starting one. So I wanted to talk mostly to you guys, but you know what? The things that we're talking about that helps with new trainers, and if you're just starting your new business, also helps if you're changing anything. If you're adjusting things, you're trying to figure out where to focus, what to pay the most attention to, anything like that. So anything that you are working on this year, if you're changing your programs or you have new goals of setting new money, setting new goals for making more money. I can't even talk. I need more coffee, even 9 o'clock at night, or more sleep, something. This has been a really, really weird week. So no matter where you are in your business, these are things that can help, because you always need to know where to focus, what kinds of skills you should focus on, what kinds of things you don't really need to pay any attention to that are everybody's making a big deal about, but you don't really need, stuff like that. So we want to talk about the kinds of skills that you need, and a lot of the things are not really super obvious. So again, all this stuff is for if you're new or if you're changing anything and you want to revamp things. Stuff that you need to do. So skills you need, stuff you don't need, where you should advertise, because that's always a big question, especially when you're first starting out, is like, how do I even get my name out there? How do I even get my first client? How do I start getting people to find out I exist and I'm training now? The number one thing you need to know, which all of your success hinges on this number one thing. If you don't know it really well, everything else will be a struggle. Doesn't matter what you work on, how great your website content is in general, how great your training skills are, everything. It'll all kind of fizzle, and it'll be so much more of a struggle if you don't know this one thing. So I'm going to clear up that. And we're going to talk about a couple of things about your social media, because another thing I get asked about a lot in this group, especially when people are joining, is they'll say things like, I'm working on my advertising and I'm trying to learn social media and I can't figure out my social media and I'm trying to get new social media strategies. There's always social media questions. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, of how much of that you should be focusing on, because that's also a little bit surprising. And I know Adam can speak to that a little bit too. So Adam is in this group as well, and he's also been helping dog trainers with their businesses in a lot of different ways over the years. And so we talk about, kind of advertising methods and things like that too. So I'm going to touch on that a bit. I also wanted to tell you guys whose advice you should absolutely completely ignore. And it's not Ty. We all love Ty. So you could still listen to Ty. And it's not Adam. But there's definitely some advice out there that you want to completely disregard. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a fair warning on that, especially you guys who are newer to your businesses. So you know a little bit about how like things go behind the scenes among all the dog training business coaches a little bit. So I'm going to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit on that. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can stand out even if you're new and where to focus your marketing so you don't run out of money and you don't burn out before you even get going. So let's first talk about the skills that you need. So obviously you need to know how to train dogs. That's got to be a given. Hopefully you know how to train dogs before you start a dog training business. It's not really completely a given because I have seen obviously people who thought that dog training was a great business and that they were good marketers, and they weren't really that great at training dogs, but they still decided to do it anyway. So don't really recommend that. Make sure you can train dogs pretty well. So the skills you need is, the first thing is that you're probably wondering about is the skill having to do with getting your name out there, where to advertise. So I'll talk about that first because that's always a big question. And that's definitely something that is in Adam's arena. So if you don't know who Adam is, he is in, hi, somebody from Iowa. Oh, it's Donna. Hey, Donna. Adam is in the kind of advertising arena side of, dog training business coaching, and he helps a lot with that. So you should definitely talk to him if you need help with getting more people to find out that you exist, because the most valuable way to advertise, besides word of mouth among like getting more referrals from past clients and things like that, is to make sure that people who are actively looking for a dog trainer can find you, which means that they're going to go on Google and type in dog trainer in my area and you will pop up. And the only way to really do that is to get really decent search engine optimization, which Tom can help you with. Tom Savoca, he's in this group, and also do Google ads. So that's the thing that Adam can help you with. So those are the things that you want to focus on the most. And I'm not plugging them for any reason other than that I know that they know what they're talking about with those things. So they can definitely help you with that. So you want to focus on making sure that people who are looking for a dog trainer can find you. So being able to be found on Google is important, which means you need to have a website. So as far as stuff you need, a website is really important. Ideally a WordPress website, and that's something you might need to hire out because you might not be good at, designing a website. It might not be your thing. You might be a great dog trainer, but you weren't a website designer in your past life. So you might want to hire that part out. There's a few things actually we're going to talk about that you might decide not to learn yourself. So some of these things are things you can learn on your own and you can do on your own. And some of the things are going to be things that you just don't enjoy learning about, and it's just not your thing, in which case you need to get somebody else to do it. So you can either learn to do it yourself and kind of have some trial and error, or you can hire it out if you know somebody who does the thing that you need. So advertise on Google, which means you need to have a website, ideally a WordPress website. You can get someone to build one for you. It doesn't have to be several $1,000s. In fact, I would not recommend that you spend several $1,000s to build a brand new website. But there's that in itself is a huge topic. So maybe we can even talk in a separate live sometime about like website design and how the best ways to rebuild one, or website content in more detail and things like that. So you guys can just let me know which things you want to learn more about specifically in this list, and we'll do kind of deeper dives on those topics later on. So you need to have the skill of where to advertise. Writing is also a really important skill. Writing your website content, writing your program descriptions, the descriptions of what you offer. That is a huge, huge thing, because if you think about it, when you advertise and you get people to find your website, the purpose of your website is to get people to contact you. And if they go to your website and they are not impressed by what you say, and it's just not pulling them in, then it's just giving information, then it's not going to work as well, and you're going to have to spend more money on advertising to make up for that. So you don't want to have to not be able to make the most of the people who you are paying to get to your website. I will back up a little bit on this because this has been a very weird year, and Adam and Ty and I and a whole bunch of the other coaches have talked about this a ton of times, or not even a ton of times, but you've probably seen us all talk about it, is that a lot of newer dog trainers in particular, and even ones who've been around for a while, did much better this year than is typical. and kind of have given a lot of us a little bit of false sense of security that, you don't really need that many, great marketing skills. You maybe don't even need a website. You maybe don't even need to be great with people at all, because there's just been so many people with new puppies and, getting training, and it's just been busier for the majority than it usually is. So you need to prepare for that bottom to fall out. And I mentioned that a couple times in these lives, that working on your marketing skills and your selling skills and things like that are always great. It'll only just make things better. And eventually you really might desperately need them, because when things kind of fall off, it tends to happen very suddenly, and it hits you in the back of the head, and everything's going along fine, and then all of a sudden everything's just dead. Your phone stops ringing. Nobody's doing anything. Nobody's calling. Nobody's, making booking appointments or anything. So you got to do what you can to prepare for that and prevent it. So writing your website content, having a website in the first place, not just relying only on your Facebook page. Those are all important things for going forward in order for you to be consistently successful. So there are some exceptions. I will say that there are a couple of people who've gotten by for years only having a Facebook page, but that is an exception. So a lot of the things that I'm telling you guys are things that work very consistently for the majority. And so don't just look to the exceptions and be like, oh, well, I know this, really, really a great successful trainer who makes tons of money and they don't have a website, or their website's ugly and their content sucks and they don't even do any selling and whatever. There's exceptions. So you don't need to worry about the exceptions. You need to know what works consistently for the majority. So you need to have a website, and you need to be able to be found when people search for a dog trainer in your area. The number one thing you need to have as far as a skill, it's the most important thing. If you don't have this, everything else, like I said before, everything else is much more difficult. Everything you do is so much more difficult. The number one skill you need is a very clear understanding of the way your ideal client thinks. In fact, I should have had it on here. It's in my tablet in a book that I'm reading. There's this copywriting book that I'm reading, which I'm a nerd, so I'm always reading more about copywriting and marketing and everything. So in this book, he says, copywriting is basically writing that is written in a way that is intended to get the reader to take some kind of action. That's basically what copywriting is. And so he was saying in that when you are, that the skill of copywriting, and pretty much every other marketing skill, hinges on understanding the minds and the desires and frustrations and, issues and impacts of things on the person you're talking to. How they think, the words they use, the way, the things that they think about their situation. All of those things are so important to know. Knowing who you're actually trying to attract, how they think, the words they use, the problems they have, the frustrations they have, the goals they have. All of that stuff is super, super, super important to completely understand. Not just thinking to yourself, oh, well, anybody who has a dog that's not listening, that's who I want, and I'm just going to talk about what I do, and then, that's all that you need. And that doesn't work, because the people will read that, and just because you're talking about what you do doesn't automatically mean that they relate that to their problem and their goals. You have to know how they think and be able to kind of paint that picture for them. So copywriting, writing your website content, writing the descriptions of your services, and understanding your ideal client are all very, very, very important skills. And those are, a lot of that is psychology stuff. A lot of that is copywriting skills that you can learn, or you can get help from someone. Like I do this all the time in coaching programs, where I get to know you as a trainer and your ideal client, and then write your website content based on who you want to attract and based on your personality and all that. So if writing's not one of those skills that you love to learn about or that you're naturally good at, it's definitely well worth the time and energy and investment to not do it yourself, because that is a very, very, very important part of your marketing. So again, if you can imagine, it's not just about getting more and more people to find you. It's about getting those people, more of them, to take action. So they find you, you spend money on advertising, they go to your website, and hopefully they contact you. Otherwise, what's the point of all the advertising? So they contact you, and then after they contact you, hopefully you have a conversation with them. So that's another skill you need, is how to talk to people, how to sell without being uncomfortable. Like we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks in this group, how pretty much all of you guys are introverts. And one of the people who joined the group recently, the kind of frustration or goal or obstacle that she said she was facing. I think it was a lady said she was facing in her dog training business was selling in a way that's comfortable for an introvert. And another person said something about how she hates putting herself out there and promoting herself. Like self-promotion is extremely uncomfortable. So anything having to do with selling is, can be uncomfortable because it's a conversation where you are asking for money, ultimately. So that can be uncomfortable, but that is a skill that is definitely absolutely necessary, is to know how to talk to people and how to sell, how to ask questions, when to say things, all that stuff. So that's another thing that we talk a lot about in this group. So you guys who are new to this group, again, welcome, because you'll be learning more about things like that as we go along. And you'll get freebies from me, and there's things on the blog up at makeitAsADogTrainer.com that will help you with that skill as well. So it's another big thing I love to focus on, is how to do that, how to talk to people. Really important skill. So where to advertise, writing your website, writing anything else on your website content, especially your program descriptions, understanding your ideal client, knowing their minds, and knowing how to talk to people. Those are all skills you need. So what about stuff that you need? We mentioned your website. If you're just starting out, obviously you need a decent business name. I just saw in another group a few minutes ago, just before I started, someone was talking about, they just started their dog training business and they're trying to figure out how to get clients and how to get things going, and they're not even sure where at all to start. So she posted this question in this group about where do I even start with, building things. And a whole bunch of people commented on her business name, because her business name, and I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning this, I just thought it was a great example of the kinds of things that tend to happen with business names, is her business name is Southeast Texas Canine, and it's abbreviated SETX. So everybody who isn't from Southeast Texas was reading that as SEXT and commenting on it and saying your business name really needs to be changed. It's going to hang a lot of people up, and maybe in Southeast Texas it wouldn't, because they always say it SETX. It was just, I was reading that and I was like, this kind of fits right into this, because so many of us will name our businesses based on things that just sound completely normal to us. Kemp was telling me that his business name, he's in this group, he comments a lot on these lives, that his business name is Northwest Arkansas, I think it is, and he abbreviates it NWA. And I didn't realize, I guess I would just miss that part of the generation of the 90s of what NWA means to most people our age. And so he said that sometimes people tell him he needs to change his business name. So when you name your business, it's kind of a pass-fail situation. You don't really need to overthink it. Hey, Margaret, I'm glad you're liking it. Appreciate it. I like compliments. Please give me more. I'm a words of affirmation person, so just so you guys know. You guys who follow me plenty and join these lives, now you know how to get on my good side. I'm a words of affirmation person. So your business name needs to be not super overthought, and it doesn't need to be overly clever. You don't want to sacrifice clarity for the sake of being clever. Be careful about having canine in your name, because when you have K9, especially the letter K and the number 9, a lot of normal people, the normies out there who are not dog trainers, think police dog. So when you have like whatever K9, a lot of times, especially if your website's a little on the masculine side or a little bit on the kind of like looks very personal protection, or like you're ex-military or whatever it is, they're going to think you train police dogs. So you want to be careful about that, depending on who your ideal client is. That's not a complete fail, though. So if you guys already have a business name, you're established, and you're something canine, don't feel like you need to change it. But if you haven't named your business yet, just keep that in mind. Other things with your business is knowing, again, just how it might be abbreviated, how it might be misspelled, if your website name is your whole business name, if it might be if it might be really long, like those kinds of things. But otherwise, don't worry too much about it. I had a very good friend in New Jersey for years and years. When I first started training dogs in 2002, she was kind of my mentor, and her business name was the Dog Training Company. And when I first started training dogs, I thought to myself, wow, that is a really like super simple business name. And it took me months to come up with a name. Like, I learned how to train dogs, and I was training dogs for free, and then I was training dogs by referral, and I was charging before I even had a business name because I overthought it for so long. So don't let it hang you up and hold you back. Worst case, you change it later, and it's probably not going to affect you too much as long as you have some decent advertising coming to a website. And then if you changed your name, it probably wouldn't matter too much until you start getting more and more referrals, and you don't want to be changing it too often where it confuses everybody who might be referring people to you, especially if your website address is changing all the time. And keep that in mind too. Your website address hopefully is like easy to spell and easy to repeat. That would be helpful. Something that's location related is also helpful unless you move. And if you move, you might change your business name anyway. So just a few little things to think about. So you need obviously a business name. You also need to have great programs. So we talk about this a ton, that you absolutely should not be charging by the hour or by the session or just having packages of hours and sessions for sale. You should create programs, which means that a time that's included is just part of what's included. Your focus in a program is what you can accomplish and what's typically accomplished, and you describe that outcome, and it's typically accomplished in a certain amount of time. So it's not the time you're selling, it's the outcome. So creating programs is a really, really important skill, really something you have to have. You need to have great programs, or that's the fastest way to burn out and constantly have to attract more people because you're not charging enough, because it's hard to charge enough when you're just charging by the hour. You can charge a lot more for your time, for the same amount of time, by having great programs. So creating your programs and having that skill is super important. If you don't know how to do that, actually next week's Facebook Live and this month's Make It as a Dog Trainer monthly kind of mini course episode is going to be all about how to create a big program. So in other words, something that is along the lines of several $1,000s that people actually buy, and how to create something like that. Even if you're new, you can still have these really valuable programs for people. So we're going to talk about that in next week's Facebook Live, and I'm going to put the announcement up here in the group as soon as I get a chance, so you guys can get your reminders for that. But as long as I'm not coming down with some major illness, I'll be here next Friday for that. So make sure you watch for that. But that's really important, is to have great programs. Definitely have to have that. Describe them really well based on the outcome that you give people instead of just the time. So it's not just packages of time. So let's talk about the stuff you don't need. And this is just as important because I see so many trainers focusing on a ton of crap that is not important at all and doesn't do much good at all for the amount of effort it takes. So you want to focus on the things that your investment returns to you as much as possible. So like the things that give you the most impact. So working on your social media might have some impact, but it doesn't have nearly as much impact as the amount of, compared to the amount of work it is. So if you have a Facebook page and that's your primary means of getting clients right now, and you have to pour a lot of effort into that to get clients, then you might need to still keep focusing on that for a while. But if you're just starting out and you just think to yourself, well, social media is important because it just is, and because everybody says so, and everybody has a social media following, so therefore, and you think you need to learn all this stuff about social media and become like a local influencer in order to make any money as a dog trainer, I will let you off the hook right now and tell you that none of that is true. You don't need a huge social media following necessarily unless it right now already is your primary means of getting clients. If you do have a Facebook page and an Instagram and all that stuff, Instagram page, then the best way to use those is to talk about your clients. Do before and after stories. Just talk about like the struggles they had and how things are going. Put success stories on there, all that stuff. So you might want to spend the majority of your time on Facebook and Instagram just doing that, just sharing stories of dogs that you're training, sharing stories, maybe a little bit about yourself, not too much, but some, just so people can see that you're real, things like that. And don't worry too much about focusing on that in a huge time-consuming way, because it can be a rabbit hole and might not actually be getting you much. Because people, like I said before, the hottest leads are the people who are actively searching for a dog trainer. And people don't actively search for a dog trainer on Facebook. They go on Google and type in dog trainer near me, right? So if people stumble upon you on social media, they might sign up, but they're not generally as hot of a lead because they just stumbled upon you. You're hoping that people who stumble upon you also happen to recognize their need for your service at the same time and haven't already found somebody. So you're kind of having to hope that it convinces them to be aware of the fact that they need you if they just stumble upon you. So that's why your social media can kind of take a back seat. It can be like one of the skills you develop later on after you've got everything else in place. You got your website, you got your advertising, you got your sales process down, you got your programs created, you got them written really well, you have your website written great, your income per client is good, the number of people who sign up after they contact you is good. Like after you have all those things figured out and all those puzzle pieces put in place that are the most important, then you can work on things like filling in gaps with like social media experiments and stuff. But it just tends to be the thing that in most cases is so much more of a time investment than what it pays back. So you can take that one, put it in the back burner, not worry about it. So that's one of the things that you maybe don't need. Another one that you maybe don't need if you're new is a tagline. You will screw it up. So just don't have one. Taglines are evil. And it's hilarious because out of all the website content that I see, go away. It's locking on me. All of the website content that I see is the number one thing that stands out the most is these super confusing or really just awful taglines. So if you're new to your business, you're still getting used to marketing skills. You're not like an expert copywriter yet. You're not an expert at understanding your ideal client and, buying psychology and all that stuff yet, then just completely disregard your tagline. Just don't have one because you'll get people get to your website and immediately be confused. It happens like 99% of the time. So just don't have a tagline. And the reason I say just don't have one is because if I started talking to you right now about how to have a good tagline, we would end up in a 2-hour conversation with a whole bunch of ideas that suck. So I'm being like, tough love in my, like feeling sick stupor right now and telling you just don't have one at all. Another thing you don't need is a ton of big credentials. And this has gotten to be a joke among dog trainers and a little bit debated because the people who understand dog owners will tell you that regular people don't care what your credentials are. They just care whether or not you can actually help them and fix their problem. And if you reassure them in a good way that you can do that and you can give some kind of proof that you can do that and certainty for them, then they don't care how many certifications you have and they'll probably never ask. So the reason I say it's kind of a joke is because eventually you will see that almost everybody who ever asks you anything about your certifications turns out to be a dog trainer who is pretending to be a potential client. Regular people don't care what your certifications are. It's really extremely rare that you ever get asked. So don't worry. If you are good at your skills and you can help people, then you can start training dogs professionally as long as you can help people and you're good at what you do within reason, basically. So you don't want to be a horrible dog trainer without any skills and be trying to charge money for it. So, which I don't think any of you are. So you probably wouldn't be here if that was the case. So those are the main things that you don't need. You don't need a tagline, you don't need to worry too much about your social media, and you don't need big credentials. So if you're just starting out, you can stand out even if you're new, even if you're young. I started my dog training business when I was 22 and I looked 16. And I was in New Jersey where, the majority of my clients were professionals who were much older. And it took a lot for me to be able to speak confidently and get respect from people like that. At that age and in that situation. So obviously I was new, and in order to stand out in my business and everything else, it had nothing to do with where I went to the dog training schools, what credentials I had, or anything else. It had to do with my understanding of people. And that was basically how I got to stand out, because I understood what kinds of things they were going through, how to empathize with them, how to make them feel understood, how to explain what I did in a way that made sure that they valued it so that they can understand why the training was worth the money and why it was better than maybe another option that might be less expensive. So those, again, are all skills that are all things that you need to know and learn how to do. So obviously I'm giving a kind of overview of all the things you need to know and the things you need to have in place without telling you exactly how to do each one, because they all require some explanation. So again, this gives you guys a little bit of an outline or a kind of head start on where to focus. And then you can stay in touch with me and let me know which things you want to learn more about. One of the things I said I would tell you is the whose advice you should absolutely ignore. And I will tell you that, in fact, a bunch of us have been talking about it lately, that there has been, this year, becoming a dog training business coach has gotten to be a bit of a fad. I think because there's been so many new dog trainers that have come on the scene, and people have started online coaching businesses a lot this year, and some internet guru somewhere has decided that teaching dog trainers is a good idea. So there are a ton of marketing experts and campaign strategists and gurus and services, marketing services and firms or whatever. And I'm like rolling my eyes. I'm so exasperated by these people. And all kinds of these companies or coaches that don't know anything about dog training businesses because they don't understand dog owners and they don't know how they think. And that's, like I said before, the number one skill you have to have is to know how dog trainers or dog owners think. And if you don't, it's hard to market to them and it's hard to attract them, and you'll do a ton of things wrong because you don't understand who you're talking to, basically. So if you are getting help from anyone with your business, make sure that they have a lot of skills and past experience with the main thing that you need. It's not just marketing. It's not just advertising. It's specific things. Is it Google Ads? Is it SEO? Is it copywriting? Is it your sales process? Is it your programs? Is it how to price your program or your programs in a strategic way? Is it which skill do you need help with? And get the expert for that skill that has a ton of success stories for that skill. And ideally someone who's been doing it for a while, not someone who just started in the last year or 2 years or whatever teaching those things. You also want to be careful about any kind of coach who either doesn't have a lot of success stories or is super, super pushy. Either one of those things you should run away. Because that's just kind of a common sales technique among coaches these days, unfortunately, is to just be very aggressive. And I just don't think it's right for people to be that way. Even if they make a ton of money, I just don't think it's right. So you want to have somebody who understands the dog training business because they understand dog owners. I've seen very, 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 very bright, wise, smart, wealthy internet marketing gurus give advice to dog trainers that was bad advice because they just didn't understand dog owners. So that's just a major important thing to keep in mind. So as far as the advice that you should absolutely ignore, anybody who doesn't know the dog training business, anybody who's pushy or mean or salesy or aggressive, and anybody who doesn't have any success stories for the specific skill you need help with. And make sure that you are looking for the specific skill and not just marketing help or advertising help. So I think that's everything I promised to cover. Let me see what questions we have going on here. I'm going to look over here because I can see your names. Writing complete programs is a big one for me. It's all in my brain. I need to put it on paper. Yeah. Writing your programs is definitely a big thing. Start writing it down. Come up with a couple different program ideas that have different amounts of stuff, different amounts of time with you, different amounts of peace of mind, like long-term support, different amounts of convenience factors, like you doing some of the work for them versus them doing it, different amounts of results. Obviously the bigger the program is, the more results and the more reliability the owner gets from the dog. So if you have programs with different amounts of those things, then you can take those, like the structure of it, and then describe the typical outcome for the program. So I saw in another group earlier that someone's like, hey, can you guys help me with the description of this program? It's a puppy program, and it just says 4 weeks of training to work on general obedience and this and that and the other thing. It was very basic about the features of the structure and the processes of the program. And it didn't talk at all about the benefits and the impacts and the outcomes at all in the description. So focus your descriptions on those things, the benefits, the outcomes, and the impacts. help them visualize what they can expect, what your ideal typical client can expect from that program, instead of just focusing on just this program includes this many lessons so that we can work on these cues and these skills with your dog and all that. You want to talk about what that means. We're going to do this so that you get this benefit, which means you get this outcome and impact. Those kinds of statements in your program descriptions. So yeah, start getting that down on paper. Always start with, doing it even if it's bad, and it'll be better than not having it at all. So just, definitely start working on that. That's great. Let me see what else we got here. I think that was the only other question. So so you guys who watch this recording later on, make sure you keep posting questions down below in the comments, and I'll see them pop up in my notifications so I can reply. But feel free to send me private messages as well with topic requests, questions for me to add to Q&A, anything else that helps kind of direct what you guys want to know more about. And also, and I meant to mention this at the beginning, just so you know, you can also get a client attraction blueprint for free on makeitasadogtrainer.com. So make sure you go over there and get that. There's a video with it that explains a lot of these things in a bit more detail. So it's all about just the steps you have to take from the top down for attracting the clients you want, for the amount of money that you want, and how to do each of those steps the best way. So make sure you watch that video and get that PDF printout so you can follow the blueprint for your business, especially when you're first starting out or when you're making any changes. So that's it for tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you more next week. Thank you again. You're welcome. I appreciate you guys. See you later. Good night.